Hey everybody, welcome to Ice Cream You Meme. Once again, professional opening from both of us. Me, Ben, and
JD. That's me.
JD. Yep, the dream team. We are back here today, and I got nothing. So I guess let's.
Wow, 20 episodes in. Oh wait, 20.
Yes. Yeah, episode 20. We're still in double digits, but we're at another 10 of the double digits.
Wow, we've been doing this for some time.
We're coming up on having done it for 2 years, which will be a milestone. Another milestone coming up in just 4 episodes.
That's crazy. So
that's crazy.
20 episodes, that's like an hour 30 at most of each episode. Mm-hmm. So we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, I think they range from the first episode was an hour, and now they're getting more 2 hours around there. So that's a lot. That's a fair amount. We're definitely in double math. Put them together.
Oh my god, I can't believe we made it to 20, and then now we don't know what to talk about. Wait, no. Okay, when this comes out, yes. Barbie will have been out for a very long time. I'm seeing Barbie when it comes out on DVD, so I won't be in the show without telling me anything.
Yeah. Why are you waiting for DVD, not streaming? Are you a physical media person?
I forgot about streaming. Oh, sorry. I'm waiting until it comes out on streaming. What am I saying? DVD.
Okay.
I want it on Blu-ray.
JD is the person with that one room that's just entirely dedicated to their media collection.
By Adam Sandler.
It's just yeah.
Oh, the last DVD I got was Space Jam, and it was at the thrift store, and it was unopened.
The new Space Jam or the
OG
Space Jam? Oh, okay, nice.
It's still unopened in my closet.
Yeah.
So I love TV.
Nice. That'll get some value, maybe. Probably not.
When they eventually take Space Jam off of the internet, I will have the last living copy of a Space Jam.
When they scrub Space Jam, yours is unscrubbable. I feel I only ever see DVDs at Safeways. They always have a new DVD display.
Yeah, I see Safeway, Target, because they have them at when you're waiting in line. They have the end cap of DVDs. Of, stuff that's recently happened.
Right, yeah.
On DVD was the last thing I saw, but that might have been a couple of years ago.
That's probably been it's been a minute, but yeah.
It's happened. I think maybe I will invest in getting DVDs of movies that I like, just in case Netflix just...
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to do. I mean, I think there's something to be said about owning a piece of media.
Not being afraid. Because maybe a couple of months ago when, not months, but a couple of years, not even years, a year into listening to K-pop, had some sort of music media battle where the company who was putting the songs on Spotify, iTunes, and all of that, distributing them in a battle with a whole bunch of studios. So all the songs were not on it was the great wipeout of 75% of K-pop music on. And I was I was
Spotify.
great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm not as invested in this, but it seems people are fucking freaking out because they might not have the CDs. And if the entirety of Tame Impala came off of streaming sites, I would go to YouTube, rip it onto a CD, and then just fuck it.
Yeah, it's a good place to have kind of a tinfoil hat attitude a little bit, because the streaming services, they're not always going to have what you want, and there's no guarantee that they will maintain access to anything, whether that's a movie or a song. So it never hurts to have your own files, your own CDs, DVDs.
Yeah. I wish they brought we're of the Netflix era where you got the CD in the mail, or you went to the little box, the red box kind of thing. I wish that was still a thing, and I think it still is, but it's getting phased out.
Yeah, I think Redbox is still a thing.
You should have the option of being able to buy it off of them.
Yeah, there's a place here in Portland called Movie Madness that's still a functioning video rental place as well.
I wish we had that. You remember that Blockbuster that used to be here in this city? It is. It went from tire store, weed store, tire store, weed store.
Yeah,
I think it's currently a dispensary. So
it has to fill some kind of gap, right? And I feel the movie and weed combo, the spirit is still there.
Out of there.
And they really should. That would be dope, honestly, if you went to the dispensary and they just had walls of DVDs.
Yeah, you'd
never pick out too.
You'd just be standing there thinking should I get Click or a different
back to click with you. You're big on.
I watched a video essay that was like on like Adam Sandler, like randomly.
Yeah.
Because I think I was looking at like a picture of like someone's talking about like Timothy Chalamet because of the Willy Wonka thingy, and they were like, they said something about him playing like basketball, and then someone like replied, like quoted the tweet and posted a picture of like Timothy Chalamet playing basketball, and then like the person like quoted it and was like, I'm sorry, I was not aware of his game, and like in the back it was like Adam Sandler, and then people were talking about like Adam Sandler actually has like pretty good like game, like he's great at basketball. And I was like,
right.
Let me watch. Someone linked a YouTube video essay on Adam Sandler. It was kind of very good, actually.
Was it a video essay on his balling abilities,
like,
particularly,
or charm of Adam Sandler, right? And I was like, like I used to like when I was like in high school, I was like a big Adam Sandler guy.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. Yeah, I definitely like his era of movies. I feel like there's like a certain level of kind of like class awareness that runs through the Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah,
that we don't always see. But yeah, like Happy Gilmore, that holds up to me. Yeah, it's still a good movie.
My mom was like I'm not very good at like romantic comedies. Like I am very bad at secondhand embarrassment. Like I won't look at it.
Yeah.
Like the only like real romantic comedy I've ever like loved and watched was like The Wedding Singer with like Drew Barrymore and Adam. It's
that's a good movie. Yeah.
So I was like,
yeah,
you're right. He does have charm. Yeah,
he's got charm, and him and Drew Barrymore have particularly like good chemistry as well. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah,
like in the Philippines, they would never ever get partnered with anybody else. It's called a love team, right? Where like they pair two people up together and they milk them as much as possible, right? So Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler would be like forever making movies together, TV shows together, performing on shows together, and everyone would hate that they have their own families.
Right. Yeah. They have a career bond though. Like they're Filipino stars. Yeah.
Adams. And I was like, it's a terrible thing. Cause like, as of a lot of like Filipino love teams have been like speaking out, they're like, we hate it when the fans see us with like a person of the opposite sex and they're just like burn.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But they're like,
sure. Yeah.
I was like, you know what? In the US, they could make some money off of that because people over here be getting so upset.
Yeah, I mean, like the TMZ, I can only imagine like the Filipino equivalent of TMZ being like spotted in public with actual girlfriend. Yeah, that's how you get people heated. That's how it's really
crazy. Yeah. So I was like, if they use that over here, we already have stands over here. Let's level it up.
I feel like like the Zendaya Tom Holland thing is kind of in that vein where people are very invested in it.
Have you seen the? Oh, we don't have anything to talk about. We're 8 minutes.
8 minutes in. Yeah, okay. We found something. Don't worry.
We talk. But anyway, you know what? Let's stop with the celebrity drama. We went gossip mode for the second.
Yeah, right. We're not. This ain't a gossip show. This is not even. Yeah, for real. Not even internet related. Okay.
We had stan culture in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And our love of Adam Sandler. So shout out. Today is a big episode. Yes. It's episode 20, and most importantly, this is a big motherfucking topic. It's so big that we had to split it in two. JD, please close your eyes and turn eyes down. We're saying grace now. Slenderman, how we humble two paranormal podcasters here at ISYM have hovered in your orbit. We come to you on this, our 20th episode, to offer penance and praise. We are but simple podcast people who dare in this, our first, potentially not our only, Slenderman themed episode to examine your lore and history, as well as your iconography and place of pride in the visual pantheon of internet horror. Basically, amen. Basically, I'm going to be sorry. Yeah. Don't look at me, JD. Basically, I'm going to talk about the backstory, and JD is going to talk about the visual culture surrounding Slenderman. If you thought Sonic EXE was the only titanic figure of world-shattering cultural importance we'd be covering, think again. Slenderman might well be the biggest figure in internet folklore. You probably heard the name at least, even if you don't consider yourself an online person and just randomly decided to listen to a podcast for the Chronically Online, Hi. In which case, hello. Yes, you. I see you. And I know that you're high. Slenderman spawned a 2018 film with a whopping 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, several web series, at least a dozen indie games, a Slenderman wiki with 184 pages, and a gruesome crime which is probably why JD wanted me to do this section. Yeah, okay. He's tall in a black suit with a heroin chic build and no face or hair. Sometimes he has black tentacles sprouting from his back. The more you learn about him, the more you look into that dark well of information on Slenderman and try to make sense of it, the closer he draws to you. Because Slenderman is hugely popular, we have to know a lot about the origins of this figure. Slenderman first appeared in a Something Awful thread on June 10th, 2009, focused on making convincing paranormal images. Slenderman started with 2 images, and I'll leave that story for JD, but we know the poster's screen name, Victor Surge, and his government name, Eric Knudsen. These images and their accompanying backstories got the people on the forum talking about Slenderman. People began to post their own images and include captions with these images, forming the seeds of Slenderman lore. Leech Code 5 described the idea of Slenderman as being actively malicious, associated with arson and long-term mental health issues. Users continue to post images ranging from images of contemporary events to edited woodblock prints and fake news articles discussing Slenderman being seen at the site of disasters. There was one user who went by CE Gars who posted about a film project that slowly drove his friend to mad. The film project in question wound up being the web series Marble Hornets, the first episode of which was posted June 20th, just 10 days after the introduction of Slenderman to the thread. Marble Hornets took many ideas that were already present in that first Something Awful thread and expanded on them. The series established many of Slenderman's abilities that would come to define the figure. These include things like Slenderman's penchant for stalking its victims, its powers over technology, and its ability to drive its victims insane, or to take control of them and make them hollow or use them as proxies. The web series would wind up including over 80 of these found footage horror videos, and over the next couple of years, Slenderman continued to grow in popularity within creepy spheres of the internet. The lore was continually fleshed out and added onto. The series Tribe 12 took the concept of proxies from Marble Hornets and gave them names like the Observer, fleshing out characters, building the world. Fans were creators, and there was a blank-faced slate to fill, and the internet did its thing. In 2011, the character Enderman was added to Minecraft, and while this is not a direct clone, the long-limbed, otherworldly character has a pretty undeniable resemblance in name and look. In 2011, the first Slenderman video game, Slender the 8 Pages, was released. The game tasked players with searching for 8 pages of a journal in a dark forest, armed only with a flashlight. As you collected information on Slenderman, it became harder and harder to avoid him. Going into the woods to look for Slenderman and creating increasingly elaborate cosplays to look like Slenderman also became more popular. But Slenderman was still sort of a badge of distinction. Knowing about Slenderman would mark you as somebody with some digital clout. The legend was growing, and it was growing because of the activities of insiders in online culture. I found a paper by Andrew Peck where he discusses how the use of ARGs and cosplay helped develop this lore through ostensive practices. Ostensive practices spread lore and legends by acting out portions of it and making it feel more real. In the early days of Slenderman, it wasn't enough to just wear a morph suit and get turned off buzzballs in the parking lot of Party City. If you're going to wear the suit, you had to put some respect on Slenderman, right? At least if you wanted approval from the online communities that knew about him. Cosplayers were expected to carry themselves like Slenderman, remaining quiet, seeking to photobomb, and generally lurking around like little creeps. Likewise, the fandom would criticize or ignore posts and projects that didn't seem to fit within the communal ethos of what Slenderman was. The symbol for Slenderman, a circle with an X drawn through it, taken from Marble Hornets, also became a way to demonstrate knowledge of Slenderman and could be used as a shorthand for those in the know. The formation of lore around Slenderman was very much a communal process, created through forum posts, blogs, videos, ARGs, art, and cosplay. It was never the work of a singular visionary. There always seemed to be room for additions to the lore and to Slenderman's abilities. Slenderman could be what creators wanted if the vibes were right and the community liked it. But the salad days, when Slenderman was still mysterious to outsiders, and the potential of the figure seemed infinite, could not last. Slenderman was growing in popularity, and money was starting to get involved. Slender the Arrival dropped in 2013. We're getting another remake. Yeah. I think you just shared that as well, right? And while it was basically a bigger budget remake of Slender the 8 Pages, there were some in the community that viewed the commodification as a sign that the original spirit was being lost. Because the original The 8 Pages was free to play. By 2014, things were starting to slow down. Many of the blogs and vlogs had run their course. Even Marble Hornets has ceased its run after 5 years. And then Slenderman broke into the mainstream on May 31st, 2014, when 2 12-year-old girls in Waukesha, Wisconsin, lured a third girl into the woods and stabbed her 19 times. They told police that they were trying to prove themselves to Slenderman. The Creepypasta Wiki issued a statement that Slenderman was fiction and organized a fundraiser for the girl who was stabbed. Eric Knudsen, the original poster, said, quote, "I am deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin, and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by this terrible act," but declined to be interviewed on the subject. The victim survived. They crawled to the side of a road and were found by a cyclist. She underwent emergency surgery and gradually recovered. In 2019, she gave her only interview, where she said that the incident inspired her to pursue a career in medicine. In the way of moral panics, there were quickly other reports of Slenderman-related violence. In June 2014, an anonymous mother in Ohio called a reporter to say that her daughter had attacked her with a knife while dressed in all black with a white faceless mask, and said that their daughter had been influenced by Slenderman. Also in June, there was a white supremacist couple who murdered 2 police officers and a random person in a Walmart, yelling, quote, "This is the start of the revolution." But there were photos of them wearing Joker and Harley Quinn outfits, and a neighbor said that the man liked to dress up as Slenderman. So that's what the media focus was, rather than the whole white supremacist thing. And on September 4th, 2014, a 14-year-old girl in Port Richey, Florida, soaked a towel in a mixture of rum and bleach and burned her family's house down. Her family was unharmed, but investigators linked her fixation on Slenderman to this act, accusing Slenderman of influencing her. And soon the media was describing something awful as, quote, "an internet horror cult that almost caused a killing," and, quote, "an internet school for murder, spawning a deadly cult that's molding vulnerable teens into potential killers." Because we never change and we never learn, and that's the promise of America. The moral panic over Slenderman gradually died down and was replaced with another moral panic. That's just the way it was. The fear of our precious teens. The Slenderman fandom was already losing steam in 2014, and the attention and misrepresentation of the figures, the stories, and the fans themselves did nothing to help revitalize interest in the character. And the forces of capital, they weren't going to stop. The Slenderman movie came out in 2018, and it sucked. Sitting at 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, here's some critics' reviews as a palate cleanser. Quote, "While I'm sure there's a fan or two to sustain this film somewhere out there, find me one, please. Seasoned horror devotees and creepypasta buffs won't be suckered by this lackluster attempt." From Caroline Morissette. Quote, "Take me, Slenderman, for your calling is more appealing than remaining in this world with a Slenderman movie." From Matt Hudson. And, quote, "Screen Gem Slenderman takes the creepypasta and flushes it down the toilet." From Grady Bolding. And with this bomb of a film in mind, I want to take a look at the licensing and monetization of Slenderman. A lot of articles and retrospectives on Slenderman seem to blame the decline of Slenderman's popularity on the violence in Wisconsin and the accompanying moral panic. But I think that the impact of profit motivations can't be overlooked. I found an article by Kathy Smith, a law professor at the University of Montana. Smith examined the copyright registration of Slenderman. And she found that while Eric Knudsen did register his original images, there are many other copyright registrations for Slenderman-related works. These works include things like screenplays, songs, documentaries, music videos, and even YouTube reaction videos. Word and design trademarks are also held on Slenderman related to clothing and costumes, videos, DVDs, and software games, action figures, toys, cards, board games, and entertainment services, including television programs, motion pictures, online computer games, websites, game software, comic books, and graphic novels. Most of these trademark and copyright registrations are held by 4 entities. It is No Dream Entertainment, LLC, Mythology Entertainment, LLC, DC Visionaries, LLC, and AFG Media, Ltd. And these identities, they're very ready to hit creators with cease and desists and takedown notices. There was the case of AJ Meadows' 2013 Kickstarter-funded film, The Slender Man, which was hit with a DMCA takedown by Mythology Entertainment. The film has since been removed from the internet entirely. Other short films and videos began to face similar treatments. And there was also the case of Faceless, which was an indie video game that was created with permission from Eric Knudsen, which was blocked following another takedown notice because, quote, "a third party owns the option rights to Slenderman and has the right to determine Slenderman's appearance in film, TV, video games, and for-profit entertainment." There are a lot of theories online. Some people think that Knudsen holds the rights to Slenderman and is potentially using these entities as shell companies. And he has occasionally stepped in to enforce copyright. That's true. But he said in 2014 that his motivations for doing so had more to do with respecting the spirit of Slenderman than securing his bag. Quote, I just want something amazing to come of it, something that's scary and disturbing and kind of different. I would hate for something to come out and just be kind of conventional. And we know that Mythology Entertainment partnered with the Sony subsidiary Screen Gem Studios to produce the 2018 Slenderman movie. And most Slenderman enjoyers hated this one, so I could see that Knudsen wouldn't be a fan and maybe would have wanted to stop it if possible. I think it's most likely that the rights are held by a third party, but at this point we don't know who holds the rights. Mythology Entertainment was dissolved in 2019, but just because that rights holder no longer exists does not make it public domain, right? Folklore is a communal activity, whether it's told around fire or in forum posts, but internet folklore exists in a strange space. Unlike traditional folklore, works can generally be traced to a single individual. Internet folklore from a legal perspective can feature creations that are wholly new, not based on pre-existing stories. And additionally, internet folklore can be used, quote, in commerce through the content it spawns. This makes it possible for entities to claim copyright and to trademark designs and terms. But Smith argues that the creation of a figure like Slenderman should not be valid for trademarks because Slenderman is a stock character. In Smith's argument, quote, copyright law does not protect ideas, and if there is only a few ways to express the idea of a character, copyright law will not protect that character. A tall, faceless humanoid is not a unique concept. It is an archetype in horror that exists across folklore traditions as well as modern media. From the tall man in Phantasm, who Knudsen said was a direct inspiration for Slenderman, to the gentleman in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, to the faceless Nopperabo of Japanese mythology. Slenderman does not exist in a vacuum. Smith argues that Slenderman is not unique enough, either in lore, portrayal, or attributes, to be protected under copyright. She draws the comparison of trying to copyright a character that's a witch with a long nose, black hat, and flying broom. Slenderman, additionally, because of the communal nature of online folklore, does not have enough consistent character traits. Sometimes it has normal arms, sometimes it has tentacles. Sometimes it helps children, sometimes it harms them. The fact that Slenderman doesn't have a definitive interpretation was a big part of the draw for people who were either fans of the lore or creators who wanted to use Slenderman in their own works. Finally, the inconsistencies and the variety of interpretations points to the central theme of Slenderman's creation. It was a communal effort. Even though Eric Knudsen introduced the visual representation and a caption for the character, a tall, faceless figure associated with disasters, every other aspect of Slenderman lore was a later addition by another creator. Slenderman's impact on his victims, mental health, and association with arson came from a post by Leech Code 5. The ability to distort technology, cause coughing fits, and use people as proxies came from Marble Hornets. Causing nosebleeds came from Tribe 12 and Everyman Hybrid. There was never going to be a single canonical interpretation of Slenderman. The nature of its creation was always communal and always open to additions. We had a similar discussion in episode 15 on This House Has People in It, but with Slenderman, we kind of see the inverse, right? Rather than creators building on an existing world, with Slenderman, entities have tried to capitalize on the creations of the community. Here's a quote on the nature of internet folklore from Shira Chess. Quote, the open sourcing of storytelling thrives on reuse, modification, sharing of source code, and openness and transparency of infrastructure, and the negotiation and collaboration of many individuals. For participants in these open creative settings, the introduction of intellectual property and ownership rights goes against the community ethos, and it also works to suppress creativity among internet communities. Discussions of Slenderman became less about aspects that users liked or wanted to see in new stories, and became more about whether it was safe legally to include Slenderman in their stories. The fear of legal ramifications from entities that wanted to cash in rather than contribute to the cultural work supplanted the mystery and fears that Slenderman represented. I believe that Slenderman grew because he was such a blank slate, a great creative playground for creators to pour in their anxieties. I don't think it's an accident that a faceless man in a business suit and tie has such a hold on people's imaginations in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Slenderman represented the forces of late-stage capitalism that had just caused the Great Recession. Slenderman also represented the growth of surveillance capitalism and psychological damage that it caused. the faceless man in suit and tie, watching everything you do and slowly driving you mad, who is inescapable, always present, whether you know it or not. It's a last bit of irony that Slenderman stories face the biggest challenge from these very same forces of late-stage capitalism, as faceless legal entities sought to cash in on Slenderman and form a monopoly by monitoring the very medium in which he was created and silencing unlicensed works. Woo. Yeah. So what do you think on old ISYM?
Very good, Ben. A plus.
Thank you.
No, I think this touches on a lot of things that we like had previously like covered in terms of the part where you mentioned like creation of a figure like this shouldn't be protected because it's like a stock figure, it's an archetype, it's not unique enough to protect with copyright, it doesn't have like a definitive like interpretation of it. It makes me think of like the Michigan Dogman episode where like everyone's like arguing for what the Michigan Dogman is, trying to like define it extra hard as like it's actually this, it's actually that. Where like I think I discussed like the concept of like a dog man, a wolf man isn't like like unique. Every sort of like many different cultures have like this sort of like entity that's kind of like similar to this, like to bring it down to like a copyright thing of like I made this up. The creator of Michigan Dogman invented this kind of thing is very, it's like a difficult thing because it's like, this is like an idea that most people can,
Yeah, right. It kind of goes against it. One of the moral panic things that I didn't include, but it was interesting, was there was a story from like a Lakota reservation and there was like a rash of suicides by like teens, and people were saying that it was Slenderman that was influencing them, but there was like an existing mythological figure called the Tall Man or the Big Man in this particular like band's mythology, right? That was known to influence people to commit suicide. So it was like attributing this kind of figure in their pre-existing mythology, right? And then like modern times, they were like, oh, it's Slenderman though that's doing it. Like especially outsiders were like, there's probably these kids were being influenced by Slenderman. And it's like, well, hey, they had an existing folklore figure that was like kind of a mental health, drives you to insane, drives you to kill yourself.
The shell company thing. Do you know more about that? Like, can you speak more about that? Like, why would like they think that?
I think it just seemed like people were kind of thinking like, oh, he's probably trying to appear like he's a cool guy, and he's like trying to like encourage more artists to make work. I couldn't find anything that like linked him to anything, because I mean, all these companies are a little weird. You know, the legal entities are ranging from kind of, they just seem to file a lot of trademark stuff, right? That's kind of what they're talking about. So I don't think that Knudsen did anything shady. I'm not like alleging that at all. But I think it's just like kind of what the community was saying. It's like, oh, well, he doesn't want it to look bad, but he's like doing it through these companies.
And then protecting Slenderman as an idea, wanting only like the good stuff to come out and not securing the bag. I'm very interested in that, because a lot of like, when you like, a lot of people like create something like in the cryptid space and they're not able to like control it as definitively to like be like, this is how it should be, this is what should come out. When like the securing the bag aspect of it was like, I'm not trying to secure the bag, I am trying to make sure that it is all correct or good for the cause of thing. Is that like
right? That
feels like, I get wanting to like protect the like idea of like a thing that you made and make sure that like all the stories come out of it.
Yeah,
I think he could have just said like, but I wanted to make everything like that. I don't mention any like, I didn't want to profit off of it kind of thing though. So yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because he does have the copyright over like his original images and the captions. So it's like, these are my works, I get to kind of say how they're used. But then like, it's the weird thing is where these like legal third party entities get involved, where it's like, like there's nothing to indicate that they had anything to do with the creation of anything. They kind of just like filed trademarks on like Slenderman or like the likeness of Slenderman. And that I think is very much not like, I have like a creative stake in it, rather than it is like, I'm going to stake claim in it because nobody thought to trademark this. Right. And so that's where you can be like, well, no, you can't do this because this is not a licensed trademark.
I had this where it's like, it might be connected in terms of like what I was asking it, but it's like not necessarily gatekeeping, like a protecting against like the mainstream or like the outside kind of thing. It was like protecting.
Yeah.
Is it like, this is not like, is it good to avoid the mainstream? I'm a hipster kind of thing. But it's like, in these cases, it's like, is it good when the mainstream doesn't get involved? Or is it just like the money aspect of it, right? That ruined it? Is it like the mainstream, everybody gets to know it? Or like the money aspect that like really brought it down?
I mean, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, it's like tough because I think there is that aspect where it's like when it's like an insider thing and it's like, well, only we know about this and only we're really involved in it. And then I think that like you can see like that happens a lot of times, right? Where like something is cool and then more people find out about it and then it's not cool anymore. And that's just like the endless cycle of being human. So I think there's like the certain aspect for like internet people, I think, take a lot of pride in being like very online and knowing like these very niche things. And I think when it does start to kind of blow up, it does become like less cool to know about it because now like your aunt is talking about it and how it's like this evil satanic thing. And you're like, oh God, okay, no, that's not what, like, even though there's not like people understanding necessarily what it is or like kind of knowing, just like knowing about it, I think it's sometimes bad enough to be like, well, this is not cool anymore. I don't really fuck with this. And then the money thing, I think that the main thing is just like when you are seeing people getting hit with like legal notices that like their creations are violating the law, it creates this kind of environment where it's scarier to create something. And it does kind of have a suppressing effect. Right. Even if your work is not being targeted, like it just creates confusion in the discourse. Like the online discourse that I was reading was people being like, oh, like I think it's fine. And it's like, well, that's not what matters. Will you be hit with a legal notice? Well, they can't actually hit us with legal. Well, they're hitting people with notices. And then people be like, well, if you get an approval from Eric Knudsen, it's like, well, Eric Knudsen doesn't hold it. So it's like all these confusions, kind of like fog of war of like, who actually owns the rights to this fucking character? If those rights are even holdable, which is something that has never really been decided. Right. So it's like just this kind of fog of war thing where it's like, well, better not do it. Like, I think a lot of Slenderman creators kind of tried to pivot and basically be like, okay, well, let's just not call him Slenderman and say it's someone else. Like, that's kind of an option. Like the Marble Hornets guy is like, well, it's not Slenderman anymore, but like I never really got hit with it because I never said it. I'm like, it's kind of different. It's kind of its own thing. Like you can use like all of the aspects of it, right, and not call it that. So it's like this kind of that legal loophole of like, well, it's not Slenderman, but it's wink, wink. It's basically the same thing, right? And that's like I think the thing with him being a stock character, right, is that it's like you can use all those aspects and it's not the same thing. But it is the same thing because it's not a set thing necessarily.
Well, yeah, I think like that touches on something we were talking about last night, where we were talking about like fan fiction in terms of like the Slenderman thing.
Yeah.
And then goes back to like again like this house has people in an episode where it's like talking about like the Star Wars, Star Trek kind of stuff where the larger company like controlling the idea of what a Star Wars is, what a Star Trek is, by way of like suing fanzine creators, suing like putting in like legal takedowns and then making everyone go underground and feel a little bit unsafe about, I want to write a side story for like Leia Organa kind of thing, right? And that is
it's like it does kind of like I think kind of a cooling effect, like in terms of like just what's getting created out there. I think the tough thing is also just like the way that it works, where like people can not necessarily be involved in something, but still kind of be the ones that like, trademark, pay me, come on, baby, and it's like that's something that needs to be figured out because it is very kind of scavenger behavior. Yeah, because like the Anne Rice thing, it's like you can kind of see when it's like Anne Rice, and she's like, well, I want to kind of, the Vampire Lestrade is my thing. I get the money from it. And even if it was like Eric Knudsen, I think that would be more understandable and more kind of like, okay, like you created the character. If it was like, this is my soul work, I get to I get to make the money off of it. That's like, I don't necessarily agree with that reasoning, but I do understand that more than like, well, somebody just left this on the table and it's free money. Now it's mine.
I feel it.
Let me lock it down. But yeah, like that's like the Slenderman movie came out and was like universally reviled. All this kind of stuff that is like the licensed Slenderman stuff is not really like necessarily a work of the community at a certain point. It becomes like this kind of like a business thing where it's like the studios are like, oh, there's probably money in this. And then the people that own the copyright are like, yeah, we own the rights. We'll sell them to you. Well, you can use them.
Crazy. I've never, like, as with every topic that we cover, I don't really think that deeply about it until we like go into it.
For sure.
This, like, I think Slenderman is the first one where I kind of like went like, I had never even considered or thought of this, right? Because sometimes you like take something in, you're not necessarily critically thinking about it, but you're kind of going like, I see this, I see that. When you started bringing up like like the faceless man in a black suit, Big Brother style kind of thing, watching you, he's when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, Santa Claus dark style kind of thing, I really was like, oh.
Yeah, and like Slenderman like has power over technology too, like the ability to like monitor you through technology, the ability to mess with your technology. I think it was very much like of the moment, but I think also because Slenderman is such like a like I think should be treated as kind of a concept. I didn't want to get too into like this is like the reading on him. This is who he is, because it's like it's so many things to so many different people. Like there's like any number of interpretations, which I think is what's cool about the figure. In an ideal world, it wouldn't just be like this is the one way it can be. Because there were like I found like cool articles of like different readings of him, like as like this is the surveillance thing. I was like, that's really interesting read. I don't think it's an exclusive read though.
I love that. But speaking of interesting reads, I have
how many
stats on Archive of Our Own.
You got some numbers for me?
We have logged out because there's like different fan fictions that you can access as a person who is logged into Archive of Our Own and logged out. Some people lock their fan fiction so the outer world can't see it unless they have an account. AO3 is invite only at the moment, so I can't help you there. Logged out of AO3, we have 1,948 fan fictions under the Slenderman.
Okay.
Those are rated as such. 701 works under teen and up, 534 on mature, 263 are explicit, 250 not rated, and general audience 200. So we have the most explicit. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's a sexual nature to it. Yeah, there's not
Slender banging.
Yeah. Maybe it could be like horror, gore, some really mature themes kind of things. Some of the popular relationships that we might have to look into, because these are names that I've never seen before, are Jeffrey Woods, Jeff the Killer, we know him, / Reader. 48 of those. So Reader means, self-insert kind of thing. Brian Thomas Hoodie. Don't know who that is. / Timothy Tim Wright Maskey. So we might have to look into Hoodie and Maskey.
We gotta have to look these fellows up. Yeah,
we were interested in last night. Slenderman / Reader, 130. So these are the top 3 popular relationships, and the top popular fandoms within the Slenderman tag is the creepypasta fandom with 1,490, Marble Hornets at 598 fics. And then some popular tags for it is creepypasta at 313 tags, horror for 208 tags, murder 206, blood and gore 191. So it's sort of like expected-ish, right? Recorded fan fiction, which I will have to say AO3 was created in 2008, right? But the first fic recorded is September 12, 2001. So that might have been someone messing around, because I have seen someone post some photos from 1973 before, and I was like, hold on.
Anyway,
some information on this incredibly popular first ever recorded Slenderman fanfiction. I'm not going to say the author's name or the title, because maybe they don't want to be busted out. The fandoms for this one are SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon, The Backrooms, Five Nights at Freddy's, SCP Foundation, Creepypasta Fandom, and Slime Rancher video game. The one that I'm counting instead of the 2001 one is from November 2011. So that is some odd year. Yeah.
10 years
and this
later.
Is a super lock thick, meaning that it is involving supernatural and Sherlock. So Sherlock Holmes Dean and Sam are out hunting Slenderman. Just for Ben, because people who are listening might know this, Super Wholock is a very, very popular trio fandom on the Tumblr online space. It is supernatural, Doctor Who, and Sherlock. There's a lot of fics involving crossovers amongst them. Yeah.
Those three, the trifecta.
Say that, like, actually, Dean and Sam are the sons of Sherlock and Watson, that kind of thing. You know, the Doctor actually is son of lots of enter. The most popular fanfiction from them is from April 20, 2021. Happy 420. The fandom is Creepypasta and Marble Hornets. I am going to now read some statistics of this fanfiction. There's 496,704 words in this. 59 chapters. 826 comments. 2,115 kudos. 370 bookmarks, and it has been read or checked out 109,511 times. Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay.
But these stats I'm reading as it's popular because of the fact that it has a lot of characters in it that people like. It's a bunch of aggregated stories, and it's going to touch more characters, and like more chapters equals more hits because people open it multiple times. Then another fanfiction place, we have fanfiction.net, which I don't know how to use anymore. There are 363 fics that are Slenderman, 2 words, 8 pages. 826 works for Slenderman, 1 word, 17 pages. K to T rating means like teen and all, 600. Teen is 449. Mature, 228. K plus is like all, 100. K is 51. It is important to mention that as of maybe like 2010s-ish, fanfiction.net no longer allows explicit works. So I was not able to find a lot of explicit works in this, but there's a lot. There's a lot of fanfiction on here, and
that's a lot. Not Mark Zuckerberg numbers, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
But no. That is not like a random offshoot mention. I was talking to Ben about fanfictions from the Social Network movie.
Fanfictions from
which all my friends were heavily involved with, and I, for a second, saw so many edits of that movie where people managed to, by the grace of God, we will talk about this later because I work on it, do a lot of Photoshop magic to make Mark Zuckerberg, as played by Jesse Eisenberg, Eduardo Saverin, as played by Andrew Garfield, kiss.
You're involved in this ever
so many times.
No. Okay.
One thing I'm not good at is is rotoscoping and like moving video manipulation. That's not where I'm at. I'm good at like other things on Photoshop. That one I was not. But yeah, there's a lot of that. Anyway, now that I've tortured everyone with the idea of Mark Zuckerberg and Eduardo Saverin kissing.
Yeah, but as Jesse Eisenberg and Andrew Garfield, that's comforting. That's good. That's right.
They're real guys.
Not real life.
Keep that in your brain. Okay, don't email it to us. Your kink is not my kink. I love you though. But yeah, now that we're pretty intimately aware of what the Slenderman is, let's talk some more about how he was created, not as a story or as a creature, but as an image itself. My Photoshop background, I have been using Photoshop since I was in middle school, and I have an active Adobe subscription, but I am part of the era where you got Photoshop from a friend on a USB stick and you all shared it. Okay. Yeah.
Golden age.
I've gone through the terrible stage of like doing like neon lights edits, color filter edits, like Sin City, right? And then GIFs for TV shows that you like on Tumblr, and doing photo manipulations of my friends and random celebrities, right? And I think I may have even like, I don't know, is this bullying? I have photoshopped a photo of one of my brother's friends as Thanos on his command. So my bad. I have was that bullying?
I'm not a
healthy background in manipulating photos, which will make you not believe any photos we'll put out in the future. But trust me, we don't have any intentions of doing that because we don't really want our characters questioned the same way as so many people we do on this podcast. I don't want you to think,
we don't want the spotlight.
We're doing shell companies or something like that. I don't even know how to do that. But yeah, now that you know all of that, let's address the history first of manipulated photo evidence, just to acknowledge that this is a long history within the paranormal, cryptid, and creature space and is not something brand new. So you know about like the Bigfoot video, you know about the lights in the skies video. We're talking about photos this time around. So the main photo that I'm going to use to address this is definitely faked and has been addressed. The next two, though, I have decided that they are fake. Okay? JD has decided they're fake, right?
Twist.
I know that I brought up in one of the episodes, I think it was Mothman, where like it's hard. I made Ben like take a picture like real fast, and I brought up like the whole blurry issue exercise that I did a while back on like capturing evidence during the Mothman episode. So I know it's difficult to experience something and then like quickly pull up your camera and make sure you get like good shots when you're not shaking. And even in our current state of like extreme like surveillance, with all that being said, I still don't believe that the two photos that I'm going to talk about are real, which is fine and cool because the main photo manipulation we're talking about here today, it's actually very much like not real at all, right? So that's something that you'll remember from Ben's section. But yeah, this photo that we're going to talk about is not one of like, it's probably not like the photo that like started it all, but like it's
I said it all. Yeah.
Where's the chat? Ben, I'm sending this to you so you can look at it. It's not the one that started it all, but it's like the one that like most people know about. And it doesn't have to do with this one obviously will not have Photoshop involved with it, but
oh wait, you sent me the fairies?
Yeah.
The fairyfolk?
So this is like some actual in-world work to make a fake photo. So you don't need Photoshop, besties. So absolute girl bosses Frances Griffiths and her cousin / bestie Elsie Wright managed to dupe folks in the most girl boss gaslight gatekeep kind of way that we can't help but give them a round of applause because that was so good for 1917. The cousins, they were big on fairies, even if their parents were like, that shit's not real, shut up. But anyway, in 1917, the girls set out to prove their families wrong. Elsie borrowed her dad's camera and off they went. It's important to note that apparently Elsie was a big fan of photography. She was 1917. She was big on photography. She was great at like doing like photo corrections, photo retouching, but this was her first set of like solo, her out there with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd like to imagine that if she was around now, she'd have a huge Instagram following, would be a VSCO girl, and she is, I'm claiming now, the original cottagecore photo girly. But yeah,
well, certainly,
they went out and took these photos. I'm vaguely talking about it. It's the Cottingley Fairies. Go look that up right now. But yeah, upon seeing...
Yeah. Arthur Conan Doyle was really into these, right?
Really into them.
Bringing back to Sherlock, he was very into fairies. Yeah.
Upon seeing the photos of the girls with these fairies, Elsie's dad wasn't entirely convinced of the whole thing, but he didn't really know how the girls created the photo. Bro knew that his daughter was severely into photography and had like at some points assisted him and worked on them with her. He smelled the smoke, but couldn't tell where she started the fire and how she managed to do it, right? So for a while, the fairies were just like a family thing. They were just photos that they had, like a little inside family thing, and it could have stayed that way if Elsie's mom didn't bring them over to her friends at the Theosophical Institute in Bradford. This is where the attention grew to the point that folks were holding lectures about the photos and talking about it being proof of the continuing evolution of the human body that the Theosophists believed in. But simultaneously, also, people were thinking that it's entirely possible that this was horseshit. Okay? As stated in Cottingley Fairies, the photo hoax that fooled Kodak and Arthur Conan Doyle by Matt Williams, Kodak itself refused to certify authenticity. Edward Garner's view of this denial Edward Gardner is a theosophist. He was like, this is a conspiracy, and he was accusing the company of anti-spiritualist bias.
Yeah, sure.
Edward Gardner was like, you're being anti-spiritualist, and the unofficial agreement was sort of enough for like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle to be like, so I have a chance.
I'm in, baby.
So I have a chance.
Yeah, I could get with one of these fairies.
It's incredibly hilarious to think that the Cottingley fairies exist because a couple of girls needed to convince their parents that they weren't actually out for too long because they were messing around and didn't want to come home, but they were actually dad playing with fairies. So they got in trouble. They were like, why are you out so late? They're like, we're playing with fairies. And the parents were like, no, you weren't. And they were like, bet. Right? So
prove it.
Some girl power right there. Yeah.
We have the receipts.
The dad was like, I know you're lying, but how? Elsie's dad was right, though. We now know that the Cottingley fairies were just cutouts or trace little drawings of fairies from various books that even he was so blinded by it. Arthur Conan Doyle had like works in these books that the girls had previously cut out of, so he just probably didn't read his book.
Arthur was down bad for the fairies. You
married? Is this serious?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're now going to do a little exercise, though, where I help you do a bit of debunking when it comes to photoshopped or potentially photoshopped cryptid imagery. The following that I'm going to be showing you are two of the most famous photo examples of the Jersey Devil and the Mothman. Ben, once I pull up this presentation, I'm going to have you look at the image first, and then we're going to discuss the photo. So just take in the photographs and just think about them, and then we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. Okay. I'll try to not hold your anti-spiritualist, anti-cryptid bias against you.
Okay.
I'm seeing her.
This is the Jersey Devil. Look upon the Jersey Devil. Let me zoom into the Jersey Devil first of all. Let me get the Jersey Devil right in there. Oh.
This one's pretty scary, JD.
Look upon the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
Just think about it, okay? Consider the Jersey Devil.
Consider
Oh.
It's glory.
You just think about it, okay? We're now going to move on.
Okay, give it in my head.
Mothman. Consider the Mothman. You're looking at it. And then this is from the same person of the Mothman. This is a Mothman.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
for everybody else who's driving right now and can't look, it's in the script, ISYMpod.com, and then you can watch later at a later date. But yeah, so now some of my favorite steps on discerning what is what and what isn't can be found in the way that I analyzed a lot of the Dear David photos in the Adam Ellis episode, which let me tell you, prophets we are. We found out yesterday. I know you're going to be like, oh, this episode months later. It's already out.
This will come out after, but
as of recording, that the movie is coming on the exact date that we usually drop episodes. The Dear David episode.
And it's that episode, too. So, dropped the same day as the movie. We had no idea that was going to happen.
My friend sent me a message and she was like, Dear David movie. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I looked it up. I was like, October 13, 2023. If it doesn't drop that day,
it's our day. I
literally said like it's coming out that day, and I was like, if it doesn't, I'm literally gonna find Adam Ellis and I'm gonna beat his ass. You can't do it, okay? Anyway, so some of the things you want to do when it comes to debunking photos. Personally, I would head over to images.google.com and just put the picture in there. Try your best. If it's like a vague-ish ass photo like these, like obviously it's going to be a little bit difficult for you, but if for the most part, I want you so desperately to stick it into images.google.com or some other image site. We are definitely in the age that this is something that could potentially get much harder because of the prevalence of AI generated images and people having more and more skills at Photoshop. drawing, painting, and general other image making skills, people can make really hyper realistic like photos, right? Using ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
They're sick. Anyway, for the most part, without thinking of all of like the AI stuff, you can still try your best to trace the image backwards from there. You can find similar locations, tree lines, animals, images, or whatever if you do this, right? Second is to, just like how I did in the Dear Diver episode, check out the photo in various filters, right? I find the brighter filters such as like yellow, cyan, and orange really help out to bring the pixels out for some reason. You don't need Photoshop or some random software to do this. I'm going to show you how to do this on Google Slides. So you're going to do this, right? You're going to you're going to right click it, and then you're going to go to format options, and then you're going to go to recolor. And then you're going to try out these 3 colors. You're going to try out yellow, right? You're going to try out blue. You're going to try out orange. I find that the yellow, the brightest yellow can work the best. You can work on some adjustments of brightness.
Yeah. I remember this yellow from your Dear David.
I didn't see.
Your tricks. No, good night. It's not seeing the boy in there.
See the sweet boy when I drew it on it, right? So you don't need Photoshop, no nothing to like do this. You can pull up if you have a Gmail account, you can do it, right? So once you work on the brightness and contrast, it's at this point that like you can pretty much tell, you can tell if the image is like shoddily done. You can sort of figure out the different pixels between the background and like the cryptid photo. When I myself was working on the Slenderman images that I made, which we're going to talk about later, I made sure to work on like different layers to make changes easier, but also to make sure that there was an additional layer on both images that could bring the pixelations together, or at least bring in a lot of noise, right?
Ooh, devious.
Let me take my time and like ruin them, right? Or at least bring in a lot of noise to make the photo blend as much as possible in the specific areas that I'm trying to sneak in my little monster. Adding random aberrations to the photos can really throw people off, but we'll take a look at this when we get there. The third thing is I would go through the internet and try not to just trace the photo back, but to look through the chatter about the photo, right? You can find believers. I want to believers and unbelievers and debunkers. From this point, this is where you can do some like internal like judging, right? Do you still believe it? Do you not believe it anymore? So, Ben and I see our audience statistics. And I want to bring this into the real world.
We know who listens.
Right? Scammers don't look at age. Yeah. But I urge folks to do this as well for people that you meet online. That might be too good to be true. I'm telling you right now, if someone says they work as an engineer in a different country, they work on an oil rig.
Yeah.
They work as a doctor for the UN. Look that picture up online. Please. Yeah,
catfish rules.
If they ask for money to pay for food on an oil rig, but they ask for it through Steam cards and Apple iTunes cards, don't do it.
Yeah.
They are rich, but they're asking you for money or trying to get you to control their bank account. Don't do it. The FBI is going to come knocking at your door.
Yeah, no matter how desperate it is. Also, if they want video chat with you,
I literally have it as, please, for the love of God, ask for a video call, a voice call, or something, right? Check if you have children, if you have young people around you, ask them, right? These image analysis things that I'm giving you isn't just for cryptids. It is also for real life.
It's for all the monsters in our life.
The monsters in real life, right? So obviously these like image analysis steps aren't all of what you should do when you're like encountering cryptid photos or just scammers online. But now that we know about some of the predecessor images that we have that are outright faked or some presented as real but are actually fake, let's look at some of the original images of Slenderman that were produced by Victor/IRL Eric on the Something Awful forum thread that Ben so helpfully found for us. Thank you.
Got you.
Still staring at the screen, which is awesome. I know this is getting more and more photo based, but that's why we have the video episode available.
We have the video feed,
as well as a presentation file and the image descriptions that I'm gonna be giving you because I love accessibility. But moving forward in this discussion, when I talk about photos, I'm cutting them into 3 by 3, so 9 squares all. Just so when I'm discussing like something that's like, oh, it's on the top corner, last row, that's what you should expect, right? So our first image, Ben, tell me please if I'm ever wrong, because I was going through it like page by page, just finding Victor's name. The first image comes from the caption.
Right.
This is the first image, right? Okay. It comes with the caption, "We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time. 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead." For those listening, in the top row, second square, right here, we have Slenderman in his first appearance. In the rest of the frame, there are concerned and alarmed children. Heading to the viewer's left, we have a child on the right side in the foreground looking at the camera like they're mad pissed. With the caption's context, we can understand the sort of alarm on their faces. At the moment, I wasn't able to find the base image, unless you were, Ben. Okay.
I was not.
Yeah.
Good album cover, though.
I have a suspicion that this might be due to it being several photos smashed together, like an exquisite corpse of some sort. This is like the most visible that Slenderman is in these two photos so far. That, like, I'm guessing that based on his like block of text that he talked about, like where he got the source image from. This is one of them that is like Slenderman is like painted on, edited on, like painted from scratch kind of thing.
Right.
I think that this is one of the instances, along with another photo that we're going to talk about in a second. Photo 2 is a different black and white level, so you can see that this is a different kind of black and white filter, and it has on the center column from top to bottom a young girl climbing up a slide. That's the slide, right? And then below her are the children. In the background, in the first column from top to bottom, we have a Slenderman with very visible tentacles. Like Ben said, Slenderman doesn't necessarily have this, like, at the moment, like, we have this guy who's very tall, right? In the first photo, we don't really see, like, arms, legs.
Yeah, he kind of has maybe hands out, but this one's definitely tentacle-y.
Tentacle adjacent. But yeah, so those are the first two images that are the most well-known when it comes to this story. And the next, we have a not so typical origin photo where it's colorized and it's still from Victor. And the caption is as follows: 5/24/95, 1994, Wilkes Estate. One subject reported nothing out of the ordinary before taking the photograph. Lower stairs area was said to be very dark. Subject states that after the camera flashed, she heard a sound like a watermelon being unable to understand something. In the middle, we have I was like, what? Like a watermelon being what? Tell me.
What happened to the watermelon?
In the middle, we have someone taking a photo of themselves in the mirror with the people. I think that's like 3 people, right? We have Slenderman just to the right of the camera flash. This is, I believe, one of the other painted in Slenderman. We have a very colorized Slenderman compared to like the older, like dated photos, which I guess comes with the time, because this one's 1994. The other ones are like, what is it? 83? Yeah.
80s? Yeah, really. Yeah.
Next, we have a police document with some blood stains. There's some words on there that I cannot read because I don't, my glasses are not updated. On the top right side, we have Slenderman, kill us already. Kill us, kill, which is fun. I'm thinking this is like a cool photo of a paper that's been drawn on with pencil with the additional blood stains later.
I recognize those the blood brush.
Photoshop or GIMP, whatever. In the next photos, we're going to go through them and identify what's pretty like different about them compared to the initially released photos. Going in line as well with what Ben said about like Slenderman not having like this specific body look to it as it grows and grows and grows, right? So here we have a thick-bodied Slenderman. Yeah.
Yeah, he's burly.
2029. His arms are less tentacle-y, fluidish, kind of more like like sausage links together.
I mean, yeah, sausage linky. It was kind of. Yeah, I was thinking like kind of insecty, maybe like bug.
He's like very
arm.
visible, very close to the person. You can kind of be like, if this was an IRL, real life Slenderman photo, this person is mad close to dying, right? This is from Bleach Code 5, which you mentioned, and this is like their like inspired by Victor Surge's kind of image of Slenderman. We're gonna go in for like a 200 zoom right there, and this one he has definitely like the tentacle arms kind of thing, and he's like vaguely there, but you can definitely see that the homie is there. Then we have some more from Victor Surge, and these are supposed to be like children's drawings of Slender Man. We can tell that he's a very large individual. This is going to be a light post, I believe. A light post, so he's like, yeah.
These are like
kids' recreations of individual that they saw. Yeah.
Via MS Paint, yeah.
It's like a newspaper clipping, and one interesting detail about this I liked was, when you're holding a newspaper, for people who have held newspapers, you can like, the paper is pretty thin that you can see like the other side of it. So I think it was interesting that this wasn't simply just like photoshopped text on a piece of paper. You can see like the back ink through the paper. This was June 12, 2009. And then we have more stylistic Slenderman photos, right? This one's like moody. This is someone's like storyboard pitching like images of Slenderman, right? We've got him in this long arms thing that helps him. Like if you watch the first Miles Morales movie, like the dog lady, she can walk on like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Walking on them arms. Yeah.
He's walking on those arms. This is more like stylistic kind of thing. And here's one that's like fairly like different from a lot of like the Slenderman like lurking aspects kind of thing, where we have like we have this corner. We have a very like up close Slenderman. The caption here,
right? Yeah.
My friend is here, just came in, barely made upstairs, got picture locked door, but it's right there in the hall. Don't look at its pictures. It doesn't want to be known, but don't Lou. Yeah.
Kind of got a face in this one too, huh?
Very like Edvard, you know.
Yeah, much like
our God, hello?
Our
hello?
Icon. Yeah.
But yeah. The Victor's explanation for this was like, this is definitely like right before someone gets like their shit rocked by like Slenderman. So this is too late. So this is definitely connected to this photo right here because of the stairs, the painted in aspect, but also I believe the striped t-shirt.
Yeah, this is the 1995 one. Yeah.
Oh wait, this is not. Oh. Yeah, so now on my end of photoshopping this incredible creepy legend, it was pretty easy. Not because I have no Photoshop, but because it just seemed like an easy task. Doing this just required finding the correct photo of Slenderman, finding the correct photo of people or like a place in a large space, because that's what I decided on. It was much easier to hide Slenderman in that kind of space. And like find something that could get creepy enough or could get turned creepy and getting it together in a way that was pretty believable. So what I ended up doing was logging on to Pexels, which is like a free stock photo site. All you have to do is credit the people, and the people are definitely credited in our script. From this point, I kind of looked around for people playing in a park. Then I put children playing in a park. And then I didn't feel comfortable knowing that these were living children. So I was like, let me find some adults, because that's much better, right? And I was like, is it better because they're adults? Anyway, I had chosen a photo where it was like 4 people doing like Bring Around the Rosie in a park, but it still didn't feel right because it still felt very like posed. There was like a random guy in the background. Didn't know he was supposed to be there. I just kept
too stock photo-y.
And I was like, no, this is like, if I drop this on the internet, people will be like, bitch, what is it? Right? But yeah, I kept looking at Pexels and eventually found a very, very eerie photo that we're looking at right now together. I still sort of kept the option of like the 4 women in the park spinning around, but from then on, I kind of stuck with this like eerie Victorian-esque photo of young children being watched by like teachers while they're dancing around and playing. I did end up blurring the kids' faces because I'm like, okay, these people are like probably like 1 million years old by now, but I still don't really want to implicate a bunch of children in this. From this point, I applied a really intense black and white filter over it based on the suggestion of someone in the Something Awful thread where this originated from. They were talking about how they suggest a really like deep black and white, which is like as opposed to this. Right, because it's for like these kinds of things, it's a lot easier to mask. Yeah,
very high contrast.
Dark.
Yeah.
Someone suggested that whole thing, which was really nice, to make it look more believably like black and white, old kind of style. This is something that we can kind of remember from the Cooper family photo that Ben discussed in a previous episode. Like sort of like the eerie effect of taking a photo and making it like black and white. and how that somehow is a lot more haunting than just like a regular right? It's like the idea of like if you saw a ghost, like what's scarier? Like if you saw a ghost wearing like a striped t-shirt and jeans.
Yeah, or like a Victorian outfit.
So
yeah.
I saw a tweet today that was like, man, ghosts like several decades from now are going to be so fucked up because like people are like, oh yeah, so I saw this like person doing the nay and you're like, oh god. Yeah.
It's like our generation.
So,
ghosts.
We discussed in the Cooper family photo episode that like black and white as a filter or coloring can make it just fucked up, right? So from this point, I chose a black and white filter that did feature a lot of like taking in the reds of the photos itself, so we can take in like the brownness of the sepia. I used the Slenderman from this photo. I basically like chopped him out of there, and I think on TikTok or somewhere down the road we're gonna post like this speed. Yeah, the process.
The work process.
So, the original photo, like as you can see, is now like black and white. So I just started from there, and I stuck to the closer like colorway to like the Slenderman that I was ripping off from. Because like I said, like when you're trying to look at fake photos, you're gonna want to look at the pixels. So I was like, let me take my advice and then spin it around and try to hide as much of the pixels as possible, right? So I'm one of those people that you can't trust with a photo, right? Once I did all of that, you get a nice black and white effect similar to the original black and white photos of the children running away. And then I brought in Slenderman from that one photo that I showed. One thing that I did notice is that the common look of Slenderman now, or like the ones that people are more familiar with, involves a lot of hiding, a lot of being in the background of things. But several of the initial Slenderman photos that I showed you did have them very much in like very obviously placed in the photo.
Right.
Like the one that I showed you where there's like a camera flash in front of a mirror, and Slenderman is like smack dab in the middle of the mirror. Then there's the
one where it's like reaching for the camera.
You can very visibly see like Slenderman is right there, right? I bring this up because of the placement issue that I was having regarding Slenderman. The photo that I chose could have been better, and it could have involved a lot more hiding places. And that's like something to consider for the future for anyone else like doing this kind of thing, or for me. When I'm tricking people online. Initially, when I was creating a photo, I was trying to make an individual independent cryptid. So I was like, what's a cool cryptid? Like that kind of thing. Like no one's ever seen. And like I found that when I was making it, I was like, he's tall. It's a shadowy figure. And I was like, oh, I'm just making Slenderman again. Yeah. So
back to Slenderman. All roads lead to Slenderman. Yeah.
And, like an idiot, I accidentally deleted the file. But that's fine because it led me to like these better like results. So anyway, with this photo, I was trying to like figure out like the best place to put Slenderman. I was like, is he gonna be right here? Is he gonna be right here? Is it too obvious that he's right there? Too obvious that he's right there? Can I put him like at one point I put him like up in like the chimneys like area, and I was like, no, that doesn't feel like current Slenderman. Like maybe you could be like, oh, this is how the original Slenderman would be. Then I would be like one of those people like I knew him before he would hide in corners kind of thing, right?
Right, yeah. He's still figuring out his methods.
I ran this by my sister-in-law, this initial photo right here that I made. So you can see what I did, right? I went for like the very, very deep black and white and kind of thing. I ran this by my sister-in-law. She wasn't able to find him at first, but did end up finding him and brought up the idea that he looked a little too obvious. Like he was a little too out in the open, and that he may have looked a little bit like he was part of the roof if the person couldn't find them. I then told her that I was like, and a lot of the initial photos of Slenderman were actually him being like very obviously there, and that this is something that I noticed compared to newer Slenderman photos where he's just like a little secret that like if you look at the photo hard enough, you'll find him, and then you get jump scared, right? That kind of thing. If you cannot find him right now on the Spotify thingy, we will release these on the websites or on the internet. Maybe months before this, you've already seen them, right? And now you're finding out it was me who did that. Boom. Anyway, so a little bit more close up. He's right there. Let's get into him right there.
Have you got him? Is he sitting on the?
Did puppet warp?
Okay, yeah.
In Photoshop, where I did a bunch of anchoring. So I anchored it on most of the places where you can bend as a person, but also even more so that I can work his like tentacles into it. I know a while ago I said that like when you're looking at a photo like this, say you did find this on the internet before I told you that it was me who did it, you're going to want to basically go through the steps of trying to look for it on the internet, backtracking,
right,
looking at what people are saying, and then go for the yellow filter on it. In my humble opinion, you still can't tell. It's sort of distinguishable because I chose to be a jackass. If some tips on this is that you're going to need to do a lot of burning him into the photo, doing a lot of like brightness contrast work, using a lot of the blur and sharpening. So he's on an independent layer itself, so he's not being blended into the photo itself. But I was still able to like cover him up by doing another layer of noise above it. So at least if you're seeing that like there's a big chunk of a pixel here that wouldn't exist on the initial photo,
right,
the noise is going to cover it up to kind of like blend it out even more. So this could maybe, if Slenderman was real, be one of those pictures that are like, oh, here he is, Men in Black in the back right here, right?
Right, yeah. Like he belongs right there. This is clearly not Doctor.
In the like, as a reminder, this is the photo that I took him from. He's right there, right? So there's no shadows, no anything like that. A tip for you when you are doing this on your own is, wow, that's a scary photo of a lady. That's a scary. Back to her.
Back to her. Yeah.
Back to her. When you're doing this, I would pay attention to where the lighting comes from on everybody else's faces. So there was no distinguishable lighting on the initial photo, but from looking at this lady's face, these kids' faces, I know that the light is coming from this side, so that I need to...
Right.
Yeah, I need to... for here, I think it's burning. It's one of those things, but burning the sides here to make it brighter and then darkening this side. And then I would decide where the light is coming from and why this tentacle would be brighter than like the tentacles inside, but because he's lifting it up. So the light is coming from that end, that kind of thing. So it's darker down here because his legs are dangling here. And then on one side, there's light, but that kind of thing. So pay attention to the light source when you're making terrible manipulated photos online. Anyway, now I'm just like doing a crash course on like tricking people online, right?
Doctoring, yeah.
I worked on the second version that is a little bit more closer to like what we think of now when it comes to Slenderman, where he's hiding kind of thing. Once again, this is on the script, but also as an individual image on ISYMpod.com. He's like closer to that kind of thing where he's like hiding, right? And watching in the corner of things.
Right.
I showed her this one and she felt a little bit better about this one because it was hidden and it felt very embedded into the photo itself. But I did find that it's not as obvious, and that maybe if I like drop this on, people be like, what the fuck is this? Right?
Might be too subtle.
Point out he's right here. He's kind of like hanging outside of the window. And if we go even closer, he's right there. Once again, I'm very proud that like you can't really tell the pixels because I'm very good at this. It's my job. Once again, pay attention to the shadows. The lighting is coming from here, so you can see the offset of the light on his face. He has some shadow back here and the lighting down here. He's in this one climbing out of the window. His arms are like kind of holding his body up against the wall. Just as a reminder, he's supposed to be standing. And I did a lot of puppet warping to make it look like he's moving. And Ben, I did remember that you said that this was like harder to find, or that you may have preferred like the first.
Definitely
one.
harder to find. Yeah, I didn't see him the first time I looked at it.
I agree with that one. Like this felt like this felt a little too hard for me. Like even when I was making it, or when I was like trying to draw like the red box around it, I was kind of like, nah, this might not be working. So
the Where's Waldo relationship is becoming more apparent
like,
to me.
if we let's make the decision now. Like, which one would we drop on the Reddit? Like this one or this one?
You're saying you think the second one is more in line with like kind of modern
the
interpretations,
modern interpretation of like the Slenderman, whereas this one is more like old school Slenderman standing on top of a roof, or like very much in the face of, because he's still hidden here. And then like I know that my sister-in-law said like he could just be part of the roof, and then someone would be like da da da. But like this one's more in line with it. But I'm also worried that like I sent it to another friend on the phone, and then she looked at it through the phone and she couldn't find it. So I was kind of worried that like if someone was looking at this on the internet on their phone, it would be a lot harder. They'd be like,
yeah, right.
And if someone was looking at it on Reddit, load it up like pretty big, they'd be able to. So which one would we draw?
Yeah. I think the first one, you're kind of more drawn to Slenderman, like in terms of like the structure of the image, how you're pulled kind of in that direction by like the lighting and the lines of the roofs, right? To look there. But from looking at contemporary, our current Slenderman visual arts, do you feel like you're seeing more things that are kind of like the second one, where it is more hidden, more integrated?
Yeah, because it follows the line of like, you're looking at a picture and you're like waiting for it to happen to you.
Okay, I think let's go with the second one then, because like I think you put the work in on like this is what this is where the community is at now. This is what they're looking for. People want to work for the Slenderman.
Okay. All right. We'll stick this one on the internet. Yeah. So by now you may have seen this already on the Slenderman Reddit page or somewhere on Twitter. If you have, that's how I made it. But yeah. When I was to give like a sort of story to like what I was thinking when I was putting these placements, and in this one I was kind of like maybe injecting my own ideas of like what the Slenderman could be, because like my only interactions with like the Slenderman lore is that like he's creepy, he like stands behind you, he like terrorizes children, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm not aware of what the powers of like Slenderman are, right? But I was like, okay, so maybe he's like, this is like an origin story of like Slenderman working with other adults. He's hypnotized these teachers into keeping an eye out on these children for him and making it sort of like the adults are part of like the Slenderman plot. And he's like, this is like a school of children that he's going to be using as proxies to like kill other people kind of thing, right? And the second photo, I was just kind of like, this is what Slenderman looks like in photos now. So I was like, anyway, but yeah. For like Eric Nudson's part, Ben mentioned just a little bit of it. He says that Slenderman, which is stylized as 2 words, was like an off the dome creation, and that the concept is based on a number of things to scare him. Eric said, Victor, the name I thought up on the fly when I wrote that first bit. The asset I used for a couple of pictures was the creepy tall guy from Phantasm, which sadly I have not seen, and other various guys in suits. All of the things that aren't the torso and legs, like the tentacles and Slenderman's face, were painted on from scratch, however. So once again, I can't find the base images for a lot of these photos, and I assume that Victor was like actually out there trying to find the most obscure images, or actually going to thrift stores and antique stores to find some sick-ass photo prints to terrorize. Because like if you're doing these like hardcore, like I think if you put this picture up on images.google.com, you'd be able to find it immediately. Because he was like in 2000, what was it, 2009? 2009, you're not going to be able to find it, right? And once, when I was looking for like the initial photos, I was just mainly getting Victor's like photos. According to Cecilia said, in the Ghost in the Image, Technology and Reality in the Horror Genre, Victor photoshopped 1980s photographs. So the photos are actually from the 1980s. And I trust Cecilia for some reason. You wrote a book. I trust you. In the future, I think there's going to be an easier future for artificially created images online when it comes to creating new sorts of cryptids. If we throw it back to our girl AI Loeb, we know that many of us now have access to image generating software programs and websites, right? Maybe it won't be as hard anymore to find the perfect photo to create, to personally create a new cryptid. or to imagine something strange. Maybe it won't require so much physical handwork outside of additional editing and perfecting the text prompt and all of that stuff. Maybe making the cryptid photo creation aspect is a little bit more easy because it no longer requires a lot of Photoshop skills. You don't need to listen to me tell you that like you should add noise, you should use blur, you should use a Gaussian blur, you should do all that stuff. You can just write a beautiful text based on what you learned from the AI Lobe episode, right? You basically might not need to know Photoshop anymore, but just be really good at writing words, because you might be onto the next AI Lobe, you might be onto the next cryptid or creepypasta creature. But what does all of this suggest, right? So is it like more disbelief if someone drops a new thing? More disbelief because you're like, well, that could have been AI generated, that da-da-da-da-da. Is it gonna fool more people? Kind of thing. Because now they can't find this background photo. They might think, oh, it is maybe AI generated, but also like, what if it is real, right? So is it going to be disbelief or fooling more people? That kind of thing. But yeah, that is basically the skinny legend himself and how he was created or could be created. And those are my tips on how you can debunk photos, but also make your own photos. I'm on both sides of the aisle.
Make your own.
But yeah. That's it. Let me hit stop and not leave. But yeah, give me your questions. Give me your thoughts. Right. Yeah.
That was, I really appreciated the two-pronged approach of teaching people how to make the images, but also how to kind of debunk them. I think it is so interesting to be like the era of AI as we kind of look at Slenderman, who seems kind of quaint at this point. Like, it's kind of like, oh, this is like kind of old school almost, like nowadays. But I think that this may be one of our more historical episodes, but it's still like a fundamental like foundation of internet culture, right? And especially like, like all the moving pieces of like something awful, which I don't think is super active anymore, and all the creation and like I feel like a hipster considering like a vinyl record, where it's like, look at this fake image that was created by somebody's hands. Look at the masterpiece that went into it. And I think that, it's like, it might be a lost art. It's like the fake cryptid photo.
Hipster style, like this might be the lost art of like creating like cryptid photos, right? Like obviously people will still want to do like the old school style, right? Kind of thing. But like I said, like with the images.google.com kind of thing, and like a lot of like backtracing like ability that we can do now, it might be hard to really go for like an obscure image and Photoshop it, right? You might have to go the way of physically taking the photos yourself, on like a man on the street kind of thing, getting your primary source is you.
Yeah, scanning in like thrifted photos or something like that. Like, the amount of work is, more like work goes into it.
I'm half like, I think it's cool that it's like maybe potentially easier, but I also still have like issues with like sourcing the images itself, because it is still like a compopulation. What was the combination of like other people's photos kind of thing? Yeah,
existing stuff, right?
The potential of it, like, are you democratizing the ability to create a cryptid photo kind of thing? But it's also like, I don't know. It's like a very like a cool new way to do it, right? With the AI Lobe aspect of it. But
I mean, also like similar to like, where would if somebody was like, I created this AI cryptid by doing this, and then it's like they're trying to capitalize on it.
Who created that's like a kind of thing, and like I've been seeing that a lot of in companies that use like ChatGPT and all those things. Like, who has, if you write up like like a posting for like something like a press release, like a story based off ChatGPT, like who owns that thing that you wrote using ChatGPT and then put out on behalf of
ChatGPT, right?
Someone then say that like this is
OpenAI,
like learn
this is theirs, right?
Take that shit down because that's originally from me, that kind of thing. So that kind of thing that can be traced back to like the copywriting of like a cryptid kind of thing, and whether that has like grounds on this
I mean, it's like I think it's interesting because like this just this pace of technology where it's like 10 years ago I think like the Slenderman communal is this created by the community. Can we copyright this? Should this be trademarkable? How do we treat this intellectual property? And then now it's gone to like a completely different conversation that's like, okay, so like layers of extraction away where it's like, okay, well, this image was taken from this, used by an AI language model and put out through this to be used by end party B who wants to claim it as their property, but is really an image created by this engine from works created by these people.
It's like a whole new like tangle that you have to unravel, like a very fucked up set of like earbuds that you threw in your bag and we're like, I'll figure that out later.
That'll be fine. Yeah, it will be fine. It's not happening. You can't untangle his earphones. You're gonna listen to them, and they're gonna both be jumbled up like they're right next to each other. It's gonna
rip the little white plastic that's supposed to like hold all the cables together. And you're gonna be like, "Fuck! I have to buy $40 earphones," kind of thing. Like, but yeah, it's like an interesting thought of like, even the idea of like me putting out like this photo, right? Like on behalf of like us, I'm like, okay, like this is gonna get eyes on it, hopefully, and then like what is like the idea of like someone like creating a story based off this image? Because like I myself tried to do like a little like brief of like a little caption photo kind of thing found by the aunt of someone who is an archivist in literally had to be like, okay, boarding schools, co-ed boarding schools in this place, like what is the timeline of this, like based on like the clothes of these kids, how can I realistically kind of like say anything about this photo kind of thing, knowing that this photo could be easily found the same way that I found it, right? And this photo is like a full stock photo, but like someone put this up online so they could be like, take this down because this is my picture kind of thing, right? And that kind of thing. It's like the act of like creating this image and then like knowing that potentially people could just like spin around, do a little backflip on it and say, this happened for real, that kind of thing. So yeah, and also like given, I mean, I guess people are still making Slenderman images, you're saying, right? Like people are still putting them out there. But like the idea somebody could be like, well, you can't use this character either. Someone's gonna be like, take this down. I'll be like this is ours. It's like really? This is like, just another tall man with tentacles. His name is Tentacle Tall Man. TTM.
Yeah.
TTM.
Tall. The original character. Yeah. Trademark that shit.
TM.
Yeah.
C. Copyright.
TM.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's just like like I know we talk about like doing a lot of like creating ourselves like certain things, right? Like Monster Smash, right? You could when we make that, like what is Monster Smash based off of? Like what is it? Like the concept of it? Could someone be like, oh, I made an app for it. You can now do it. And we'd just be like, well, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, all right, you got us. Yeah, like I mean, it's the threads of like where ideas go and who gets to capitalize off the ideas and how that works, and I mean also like I was just thinking about the setting of the Something Awful forum and like how do you think Victor Surge realized, oh, this is gold? Because it was a huge thread. There was so many things. It was going on for months of like people throwing different kinds of paranormal images on it. Do you know if Victor Surge was like participating before the Slenderman thing too? I was he posting
because I was also looking for like the chatter about it, because like I said that like look up the chatter kind of thing. Let me go to like some of the things that people were saying, because like I was also interested in like what people were thinking or saying about like the additions of like other people like adding on to like specific things. Someone on the suggestion that there could be like multiples like Slenderman kind of thing, it was like said, I like the idea of like just one Slenderman, right? Like multiple worldwide sightings of this like guy who can just like be everywhere at once. And there's even like someone in Donnybrook, June 18, 2009 was like, we need to like somehow like make this real in order to be able to create like the Wikipedia with like convincing like documentations of people countering it, right? So this person said like somebody needs to call Coast to Coast sometime during open lines and tell George and Lori about their experience with the Slenderman. So like the act of like trying to make this like a real thing. So it was
make it seem real.
Look on, like, this is definitely something that somebody created, and then now everyone's like, let's make this fucking real, or like suggesting that like here's a thing we could do to make it more real, or here's something that's more convincing of the story. Like it's so much better to have them be one person instead of like multiple Slendermen kind of thing. So
there's a lot of workshopping that went into kind of figuring out what worked, what didn't work in terms of like how the community felt about what made it more creepy. Like, and then you saw like the woodblock prints and all that when you were looking too? Oh no, yeah. So there was like it took me a while to realize that they were edited, because I was just like, I mean, it looks like a skeleton, and then people were like, yeah, but it doesn't have like the face is kind of like more like Slenderman-y, and I was like, all right. But yeah, like the effort that went into like, oh, like it's like this ancient figure that's always been around. And then there was also a lot of work. And I think this is like an interesting thing too, in terms of like the originality v him as a stock character, was like people were like, oh, it's like the legend of like the Dark Man from Scotland. And it's like this figure from here and this figure from there, and trying to like tie them all together and be like, this is really, but it's really Slenderman. That's what these people have been seeing for hundreds of years and describing.
Yeah, it's like, and then like having, like what you said about like what people were saying, like what Something Awful was, and like it's a training ground. What I was just reading of, like, this is literally someone, like a bunch of people in like an honors English class trying to come up with like a cool news story. That's like literally how it felt.
Yeah.
And like one question that I had from all of this, and like knowing that like we are moving into the age of like we literally can input a prompt and like make something happen, and like how videos are closely being like made for like these sorts of things, is like, for you and I, like what would it take for us to like go back to like believing a cryptid photo, right? Because we dog our best friends at Paranormal Content all the time and be like, this shit is not fucking real, right? What would it take us as people at this current time to go back to like the age of like, I definitely think this could be real? No grain of salt.
Yeah, money. I think money. If you pay us, we're like, oh my god, you see this? Whoa, shit! Yeah,
we will turn into. I'm not roasting them. We will turn into the Jumpers Jump podcast. We will believe.
Yeah. It won't take much either. We're like, relatively cheap.
I'm like, oh my god, did y'all see this?
Yeah, right. I can't believe this footage of Mothman drinking the Grimace Shake. My mind is absolutely blown that this would even be seen. Oh my god.
I'd be like, okay.
Wow.
Haters will say
it's fake.
We believe it. In my paid off
Let me hear it.
And eradicated student loans fully believe that this Mothman standing right behind me is so real. It's like,
yeah, it's like that one filter that's like Shrek giving you back shots. Have you seen that one? And it's like Mothman.
Was interested?
That's all. Yeah.
Fuck that.
So get at us. We'll believe.
Chunk of change. We will believe, but like taking money out of it, y'all. But I don't know. Like, even it's so hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because I think a lot of like enjoyment from like paranormal stuff comes from kind of suspending disbelief and being like open to the idea. And I think for me, I feel like I get that more from like text stuff at this point, like reading like kind of like posts that are like, oh, I ran into like a crawler in my neighborhood, and be me, like that kind of stuff. Be me working graveyard shift at gas station, creepy thing happens like that. I think still works for me, because it's like maybe there's not enough detail in it to be like, oh well, I can tear this apart. Where it is like, I mean, like I know it's probably bullshit, but it's like it's just it's like a couple paragraphs of a story from somebody that's like claiming that something creepy happened to them at night when they were alone. It's like, I'm here for it. It's like,
I definitely understand that, because like right now for me, it's like the enjoyment of like, what is the enjoyment of reading like Glitch in the Matrix, like subreddit. It's like, because it's like a bunch of texts of people like, this could be real. Those are like the points of like, this could be real, right? And it's like the act of someone telling you a story like right in front of you, right? They're telling you like this encounter that they had, and you're like, this could be real. As opposed to like an image of like, I can, it's like the monster reveal, like the perfect monster reveal. Like, how many seconds is it online? Why don't horror video games work? You can play it over and over again and unscare yourself. You have to reveal your villain just right. You have to reveal your monster just right. Whereas like in like a world, like a physical, someone telling you a story right in front of your face, you can be like, backtrack on that. What did you say? Was it? Because in like in the act of asking, they could explain it some more, or like be like, oh, actually I don't remember that. And you'd be like, this might be right. And then like a block of text, they don't have to reply to you to explain like, oh, you saw this pigeon and it was like flying, but it just wasn't moving, it could be air. And then they don't have to respond to you of like, there was air that day. You know, you can just be left like wondering, that kind of thing. Yeah,
I think having a little bit more kind of like openness or just not as many details to kind of like, it's not quite right. Like I see that this is kind of bullshit. I can pull the threads here, but when it's just like person to person, I think that's why when folklore is kind of works at its best sometimes, when you're like, whoa, really? That happened to you? That's crazy, man. Oh, you got chased by a hitchhiker and left a hook in your car, and you were at makeout point and it chased you and it was running 45 miles an hour. I can't believe that, man. That's wild.
And like, it makes me think of like the idea of like pics or it didn't happen. Sometimes you're like pics and it happened, but it's also like,
and it, it's like pics and this definitely didn't happen. That's well, I'm lost.
I need context. I need the first 5 minutes before you recorded and the 5 minutes after you hit end recording.
And I think it's like, as we get like more and more kind of deep fake stuff too, it's just like, it's going to be easier and easier. Like even in videos, we'll have like videos that are like, you know, look like it's showing something paranormal, and you could be like, well, that's probably not. I mean, even before like,
and this is not to say that Ben and I are unbelievers and a bunch of haters. We want to, like, I desperately am like, if you show me the fucking thing, you don't even need to pay my mortgage, you don't need to pay my student loan, I will be like, holy shit.
We do enjoy like paranormal kind of camera and like found footage stuff, and just like anything that's like claiming to be real. Like, it's fun to watch no matter what. We love it.
Stayed with me was the one at like the pinata place with like the demon fucking head that you told me to go watch. I literally was like, this is fucking real.
There was that one, and then there's like one where it's like, we have to find these clips probably, but it's like a guy, he's here in Portland and he's like filming like outside at night, and then he like is turning the camera, and then he notices like on the roof next to him that there's just like a like completely like bald face with just like two like black eyes, and it's like a white face, and it's just like watching him like over the top of the roof, and then it kind of like
that
creeps back behind him, and it like
it's
I don't know what that was.
We saw where like the guy definitely was screaming out of like genuine fucking fear, because he's like in an attic and he looks at like one part and there's like definitely like some similarly crawler like shaped individual like fucking looking at him, and that's the only way out. Fuck off.
The crawler videos, I think those might still work as video.
So fucking terrifying about the concept of like a crawler, right? Like the movement of it, like the look of it, and like the way that the idea of like crawler, like that's a terrible fucking name.
And they're always naked. You're just like, ugh. Like, even if it's just like a person and it's just like a ball, like Mr. Clean running at you, like on all fours, you're like, oh no, get away from me, please.
I think we've talked about it. It's like the concept of someone running at you for no reason at high speed. You're like,
it's generally enough to be like, no, I'm out.
What are you running from? Right? It's an interesting concept. A look into the future of cryptids, the creation of them, and the story of them, and what it might take to believe them.
We're looking at where we came from and thinking about where we're headed.
Where did you go?
Paranormal space. Where did you come from? Slender Eye. Joe.
This episode was written and produced by Ben and JD. For all our sources, please head to the website in the description below. If you'd like to reach out with a comment, suggestion, share an experience with one of our topics today. If you've managed to take in my comments on how to create a scary, please email it to us at icecreammeme@gmail.com. All the music for the podcast is provided by Yacht Frank. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.